Welcome to the worst podcast on YouTube. This is Stephen J. Morris, the star of Late Boomer Show, coming to you from the Catskill Mountains. Enjoy the scenery. Jazz, baby. Jazz. Dig that crazy beat, Daddy. Like way out, man. Way out. Yeah. Time for the show. So, let's go. It's me again. I want to get something off my chest. This is the tale, the story of so-called political correctness, social justice warriors, and woke. Oh, it's so terrible. Woke. The lame conservatives, you put a microphone in their face and say, what is woke? And they go, I don't know. They were jealous because the left gave them a name. Cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dwellers. Underground. CHUD. So they said, we're going to get them back. We're going to call them woke. Woke. Which is the most, they should go back to saying left. Left. So where did all this mess started from? In order to discredit the anti-authoritarian left, they got to make sure that people associate the left with the authoritarian left. They associated with Stalinists and tankies and all sorts of bad stuff. And right-wing feminist, yeah, there's such things, and black nationalist. So what does this all mean? Let's start from the very beginning. Back in the 1930s, the Stalinist and the Maoist had a thing called party line. You had to use exactitude of your rhetoric. Anything that was party line. You couldn't have your own opinion. And this was referred to as political correctness back in the 1930s. The Nazis had the same thing, but that was more like conservative correctness. So in order to discredit the left, they were accused of being politically correct. Now, when I was back in the 60s, we didn't have a movement like that. All we had was some hippies and new age people who believed in Eastern mysticism, things like that, Buddhism, Hinduism. But when the 70s came around, they became the New Age movement. So everybody on the left, the new left, adopted this hippie image, including the authoritarian the authoritarian left. There was the Trotskyites, the Workers' Party, the Socialist Workers' Party. Their reaction to the identity movement was, now we do not support gay rights because that is not in the interest of the working class. They thought of themselves as the spokespeople of the working class. Just like you got these Christian nationalists and these white nationalists telling that they speak for America. They don't. And the Trotskyites and the Stalinists do not represent the working class. So let's get that straight. In the 1970s, the whole shaboom of the so-called political correctness took off in campuses, college campuses. What was happening is universities, which was controlled by CHUDS in the beginning for decades, for 2 decades, no, make that 5 decades. It was controlled by conservatives, and it was a very suppressive type of atmosphere. There was rules. You couldn't do this. You couldn't do that. It was like living in Cuba, except this was the right-wing Cuba. Now, they were getting lawsuits of people that were being discriminated against college professors. College professors that were conservative. They were conservative, and they were calling their students the N-word, and they were trying to flirt with the college women, asking them to stay after class so they could fill them up. Stuff like that. It was all conservatives. And the victims of this harassment started to have lawsuits. So what happened was the college universities had strict rules about racism and sexism. And the stupid right, as stupid as they are, thought this was because of the social justice warriors. None of them had power in the university. None of them. They could complain, but eventually my generation grew up and became college professors, and the rules and the conservatives left one by one, and it was taken over by liberals. Liberals on the left, not communists or socialists or anarchists. They were just liberals, and they wanted to please the students because they didn't want to repeat what happened in the 60s and early 70s. College rebellion. So they got strict. You couldn't say curse words or talk about somebody's handicap. And that was to avoid lawsuits. Now the people, the CHUDS, want to think it's a communist plot. And they're planning to take over America, and you won't be able to use the N-word anymore, or you can't pray to Jesus in the middle of your chemistry class. Stuff like that. So, let's go on to the next. The whole thing really started in the 1960s when Malcolm X was approached by a white radical. He said, Mr. I don't know how they addressed him. Malcolm X, Malcolm X, as a white person, I despise what my ancestors do. What can I do to help the Black liberation movement? Malcolm X said, nothing. And that's how the whole thing started. They became, there was all these black nationalist, right-wing, feminist, right-wing feminist, not socialist feminist, right-wing feminist. And believe it or not, They're right-wing gay activists. They were separatists. They wanted to have their own society away from the straight community. And they used to say shocking things like kill all the straights and brainwash their children just for shock value. This scared the shit out of conservatives. And they were joking too. Yeah, we're gonna come after your kids. Then the conservatives started to get these strange quotes from Hitler and Stalin, which weren't even true quotes anyway. They should verify these quotes. We're going to come after your kids. So, that happened. So, what's next? There was a feminist called Andrea Dworkin in the 70s and the 80s who said outrageous stuff like, every time a man and woman have sex, it is rape. Now, those people, the conservatives who have no clue on anything, they don't know what shock value is. That's what it was. It was not a plan. It was just to shock your stupid asses. They didn't really mean it. But what do you guys do? You do the same thing now. You're just imitating the left. You keep imitating the left. Stop it. Become original for once in your lives. Because you have no clue why the American people are more sympathetic towards the left than the so-called conservative bowel movement. So then we got all these social justice warriors because they misunderstood what their college professors said and they tried to be militant. But it came out real goofy. The stereotype of the left is no different than stereotypes of blacks and the stereotypes of Chicanos. The stereotype of the left is more permissible because you're not attacking a race or gender. You're attacking a political ideology. And that's what you're doing. So, now something happened to this mouse. There we go. Okay, so that's what happened. Part 2. In the early 2000s, there was this movement and on social media before the corporations took over YouTube. It was the anti-social justice warrior, and it was all making fun of political correctness. Political correctness. But nobody ever talks about conservative correctness. Nobody. That's why we say, let me put this in perspective. You were taught as a child to be civil, to be polite. And you were told not to insult anybody, not to use profanity or racial epithets. No, you're not supposed to do that. That's just being civil and polite. But these creeps, these fraternity idiots from the right, think it's politically motivated. It's not. You do not understand. There is about 500 denominations in the left. There's two squares, the authoritarian left and the anti-authoritarian left. And anarchists like me want more freedom than you do. What you want to do is you condemn communism because that's not your brand of authoritarianism. You shy away Nazism, but you're not too hard on Nazism. You're not. But when it comes to authoritarian, you want a father of a house, and this all comes from the religious right. You want the father of the house to be an abusive dictator. to beat your kids, yell at your wife, and that's how you become a good Christian. That's authoritarianism. Or you want bosses to yell at their workers and to underpay them. And if they want to have a water break or they want to have go use the restroom, you can't. You got to get our boss rich. You stay there, and I don't care if you piss in your pants. That's conservative authoritarianism. And I just explained a short history of woke. So, what do you think? I hope you think. So let's see if I got everything here. Stereotypable, anti-authoritarian. I think I got everything. So, I think we're going to discontinue Baby Boomer Live because I'm not getting any viewers. So it's a waste of time. I'll just tape the damn thing. All right? All right. Power to the sheeple. And good luck.